Reflection, Chapter 16. There was nowhere to run. The bandits' ghosts surrounded them on every side. Even if Mulan decided to fling herself off the cliff, the mountain of knives waited below. They couldn't fight either. Only Shang could intercept the ghosts. Mulan's sword and Shishi's claws would go right through them. Whispers still echoed from the knives, word rapidly spreading across Daiyu that the outsider from the real world had climbed the mountain of the knives. Mulan clenched her jaw. More ghosts flooded the plains, arriving in whirlwinds of pale, glowing reds, yellows, oranges, and greens. The newly arrived ghosts weren't bandits or murderers tied to the Mountain of Knives. Most were dressed like ordinary citizens. They'd come to witness the spectacle of a mortal making its way up Daiyu. A ghost with iron-rimmed spectacles landed on the grass. Mulan recognized him immediately as one of the ghosts who'd been on the Bridge of Helplessness, the one with the orange aura, who'd warned her that he and the others would be watching. Jiao. Jiao carried a scroll under his arm, and his ghostly fingers were stained with ink. He reminded her of Chifu, except without the long whiskers. Behind his spectacles, the ghost's beady black eyes narrowed at her. You heard about what happened with your meeting with King Yama. You should have never crossed the bridge, outsider. The other ghosts agreed. You'll never get out now. Widening her stance, Mulan reached for the ancient sword at her side and unwrapped it. She raised it at the ghost. Leave us alone. Shishi leapt forward to address the ghost. He bared his sharp teeth as he said, The boy here has an arrangement with King Yama. Let us pass. I was there, screeched one of the ghosts. He cut in line. I heard what King Yama said, another chimed in. King Yama never promised that we couldn't interfere. It isn't fair that an outsider is in Daiyu, another ghost murmured. It isn't fair he gets to see what awaits him in the afterlife. He must die. We'll take him to the river. You will do no such thing, Shishi bellowed. Anyone who wishes to harm Ping will have to go through me. The ghost scoffed and did just that. They passed through Shishi, and the poor aligned guardian looked as if he were going to be ill. His fur paled and stood up, and he shuddered. Shang stepped in front of Mulan, but she shook her head. Let me deal with this. Mulan faced the ghost with her sword at her side. I understand you're all upset with me, but I'm here only to... We don't care why you're here, the ghost lunged. No mortals allowed. As Mulan instinctively raised her blade to block them, a white pearlescent light emanated from the sword so bright that the ghost shrank away. Mulan blinked, unsure of where the sword's power had come from. She glanced at Shishi, but he simply lifted his chin to encourage her. Shang did the same with a nod. No sword could harm us, Jiao reminded the others. He sneered. We're already dead. At that, Mulan tilted forward. A mischievous grin spread across her face, and the ghost squirmed. If that's true, why are you afraid of it? One of the bandit ghosts sharpened his knife across his belt and whirled it from finger to finger. I'll deal with the boy. Mulan arched her sword at him before he dared come close. The ghost leapt back, seeing she had cut through his belt and scratched his arm. His aura flashed a bright burning red. What in the... That's impossible. He wiped the blood from his skin. It shimmered like the rest of him. That's no ordinary sword. Commotion ensued as the bandits argued over who would attack her next. Mulan inched away, disappearing behind the throng of green glowing spirits. They were calmer than the bandits. They hardly noticed her. She exhaled, wondering whether she should be thankful the ghosts were so disorganized. There had to be thousands of them there, laughing and gossiping as if they were the site of a village reunion. Most of them floated in the air, coming completely unaware of Mulan's presence. Now, if only she could let Shang and Shishi out of here. It's been so long since I've seen you. Are you staying in Yudu? Not yet. Hopefully in the next century or two. I hear property there has gotten expensive. Oh, it has. There's a war in the living world. Lots of soldiers keep arriving. Some of them are too young to have committed any crimes, so Yama doesn't sentence them with any torture. They go straight to the city of the dead. Yudu's getting so crowded. I think there's a batch of us scheduled for heaven later this week, though. Is that the mortal down here there? He looks a little like my younger brother. Poor thing. No way he's getting out of here alive. Unless someone decides to help him. The ghosts looked at each other and laughed. Not us. Mulan stopped listening to the conversation. There are so many ghosts here. Some look like they've been here for centuries. She glanced around. I wonder if any of them might be related to me. Grandmother Fa always said to respect my ancestors. For if I needed help in Dayu, they would come. She never said I needed to be a ghost myself. The mortal's down here, one of the floating ghosts shouted. Come get him. Call for your ancestors, Mulan told Shang as the bandits headed their way. Maybe they could help us. Ancestors, Shishi blubbered. Why would we... Good thinking, Ping, said Shang. He began to yell. Is anyone here of the Li family? I need your help. Is anyone here of the Fa family? Mulan shouted, slipping through another crawl of ghosts. I belong to the Fa family. The bandits surrounded her. Appealing to your ancestors won't help you now, outsider. The ghost without teeth sneered. Now be brave, soldier. It won't hurt. And you'll get to skip standing in King Yama's line. Again. Shang opened his arms. You won't touch him. Step aside, Captain. The bandit ghost cocked his head. This isn't your battle to fight. My quarrel isn't with you. Yes, warned the ghost colleague. You're about to be reincarnated, so I wouldn't taint your soul with bloodshed. Shang lunged. You want to fight, Ping? Then you fight me too. You can't kill me, boy. I'm already a ghost. Is there anyone here of the Fa family? Mulan shouted one more time. I belong to the Fa family. We're of the Fa family, a shrill voice hollered back. Mulan's ears perked, searching for the ghost that spoken. Don't touch the boy, you thugs. He belongs to our family. To Mulan's surprise, the bandits actually hesitated, and the ghost who shouted was a young woman, pushing her way through the cloud. 2 men followed her, and Mulan assumed they were also her ancestors. Fa Mei, what do you think you're doing? Said the thin ghost, tailing Mulan's ancestor. Stay quiet. We should help him, Fa Mei said. Her black hair fell to her waist, knotted into a simple braid adorned with white jasmine flowers. Rouge painted her lips, and her skin was lightly powdered white as parchment. Without all that makeup, she might have resembled Mulan. I agree, said the second ghost to Fa Mei. We should help him. He's family. Uncles, Auntie, Mulan cried, calling for the 3 approaching ghosts. Please help me. It's Fa... Her voice faltered. Should she say Fa Mulan? Fa Zhu's son. Get out of the way, Fa Mei said, fluttering the bandits to the side. This is family business. You know the rules. You don't interfere with family business. The bandits glared at Mulan, but they backed away. A little. Mulan's 3 ancestors straightened. Now that they were closer, Mulan could make out their appearances better. Fa Mei was a young woman dressed in expensive silks, and next to her was an elderly man who was rather rotund, and a bald man with a cane who slightly resembled her father. They flew to Mulan's side. Fa Zhu's son, you say? Yes, Mulan gasped. Please get me out of here. The bald ghost stroked his chin. I think we should help Lowei. What do you think? The boy's an outsider, Ren. We can't trust him. You don't even know why he's here. He won't be an outsider for long if you leave him like this, Shishi snapped at the ancestors. He'll be dead. Help us, Shang said. Fa Lowei, the older ghost, steepled his thick fingers. Prove that you're family first. Mulan let out an exasperated sigh. I already told you I am. If you're really family, you would have brought a gift. Gossip's like money hereabouts, Fa Mei said in a sung voice. Everyone's dying for some news. That made a little sense to Mulan, but she nodded as if she understood. Gossip never failed to interest the ghosts. She remembered the demon's guards telling her, I can tell what's happening with the Fa family right now. The demon guards telling her, I could tell what's happening to the Fa family right now. And why King Yama can't find you in the record books? Ren added. The bald ghost patted the huge, small bulge on his robe's left pocket. Shang tossed Mulan a sidelong glance. A question perched his lips. Mulan frowned. No, she couldn't tell him that. Why don't I tell you why I'm here instead? Like the other ghosts say, it's not every day a mortal comes to Dayu. Her ancestors made a face. It's a start. All right, we'll get you out of here. Leave it to me, said Mei. She floated toward the bandits and wagged her fan at them. You bullies leave my cousin alone, she said shrilly. We'll deal with him. He's family, after all. The toothless bandit frowned. But he's an outsider. And King Yama let him stay, Mei retorted. If you want Yama to be mad at you, keep threatening to throw the boy into the river. The bandits lunged at Mulan anyway, but she countered their attack with her sword. Metal clashed against metal, and the piercing scrape stung the air. With 2 rapid thrusts, Mulan surprised even herself to see that she disarmed the ghosts. Their knives clattered at their sides, in pieces. The bandits backed off, thunderstruck. "You got lucky, outsider. We'll be watching you." Then they plunged down the mountain of knives until they were out of sight. "What are y'all looking at?" Lowai barked at the other ghosts. "Go home. The family reunion's over." The ghosts grumbled, and some spat on the ground. But to Mulan's relief they listened. Away they floated, the majority of them zipping down deeper into Daiyu. Zhao, the ghost of the spectacles, was the last to leave. His thin face sagged with disappointment as he watched the bandits retreat to the mountain of knives. He sent Mulan a glare, one that promised this wasn't the end. She ignored them and turned to Mei, Lowai, and Ren. "Honorable ancestors, thank you for helping us." "That was a magnificent display of skill," Mei purred. "It's our honor to help the family." The Wei wasn't as impressed. "That is, if you really are family." He hovered around Mulan, examining her as if she were a caterpillar in a jar. "There haven't been many deaths in the Fa family recently, so my news is years out of date, but I seem to recall Fa Zhu only had a little Mulan cleared her throat. "Let's talk on the road," she said in her best manliest voice. "Honorable ancestors, I appreciate the chance to speak with you, but Captain Li Shang, his guardian, and I are in a hurry. We need to reach the gates of Daiyu before sunrise so that we may return to the living world." "Sunrise?" Mei exclaimed. "You should have told us that earlier. You won't make it to the top before sunrise." She pulled her hair apart and began to rebraid it. "You might as well stay here with your family and chat." Mulan frowned. "I thought you could help us." Ren pressed his hands together, looking serene. His robe was worn and tattered. If Mulan were to guess, he'd been a monk while he was alive. But what was a monk doing in the depths of Daiyu? "There's a shortcut," he said. "I'll show it to you." The other ancestors glanced at him. "Ren, are you sure that's a good idea?" "Of course." Ren waved off their concerns with bravado. "What is it?" Shang said. "Lowai and Mei are simply worried because you'll have to pass through a few of Daiyu's unsavory parts." "Unsavory?" Shang repeated. Fa Mei smiled at Shang in a way that made Mulan uncomfortable. "You're in the underworld, Captain. You don't think King Yama would make it easy for you, did you?" Shang squared his shoulders. "He's not going to win." He shot Mulan a determined yet grateful look. "Ping isn't going to have it to stay." "That's not what all the other ghosts think." "Enough banter," said Ren, lifting his cane. "Follow me, quickly, before the bandits change their mind." Mulan, Shang, and Shishi hurried after Ren. The ghosts seemed to take their time constraint seriously, for he barreled across the land, moving far quicker than someone with a cane ought to. Then again, he was a ghost. "Where are we going?" Mulan asked. Beyond the plains, there wasn't much other than a tight cluster of hills. They leaned against each other like sand dunes, so closely knit they choked any view of the horizon. "We need to go up." "I know. Patience, young Ping. You'll see." Mulan breathed a sigh and followed. They need all the help they could get if they were going to get out of here before sunrise. Their time was already halfway up. The moon was half bright, half dark against the velvety sky. "Isn't it beautiful?" Mei asked, catching Mulan staring. "Even through living in the underworld can sometimes be a chore, the view of the moons here is better than anywhere you'll find in the real world." Mulan couldn't disagree. "Don't lag behind," Lowai said, pushing past Mei. "That goes for you too, boy with no name." Why do they keep calling you that?" Shang asked, following by her side. Why?" Mulan stuttered. "Beats me." "It's strange. Your ancestors are treating you so badly, Ping. Those two, Lowai and Mei." He gestured at the ghosts, who were clearly whispering about Mulan together. "They don't seem to want to help you." How could she tell him her ancestors had a good reason not to help? Because they were right. She wasn't who she said she was. They don't know Ping. But she couldn't tell Shang that. "I don't mean to offend your ancestors," Shang added, misreading her silence. "If you trust them, I will too." "You should trust them," Mulan said, hoping he wouldn't catch how her voice faltered at the end. "More than you trust me." Because if she was honest with herself, how could Shang trust her if he didn't even know her real name?